What's up, YouTube? We got a somewhat cool item in my opinion on the workbench today. This is an Onkyo TX-8511 stereo receiver, pretty similar to the TX-8522 that I already own. And what makes this receiver unique is that when I purchased it, it came with this rack mount kit. It's actually a rack shelf that someone converted, it looks like. They claimed that it was a custom rack mount. I'm really not sure. I know that Onkyo did have a rack mount kit for some of these models, but from my understanding that kit actually threaded into the sides of the unit. So I'm not sure if this is something someone whipped up or not. If anyone knows, feel free to leave a comment about the origins of this kit. But it's actually a pretty nice brushed look to the metal on the rack kit. It's 4 rack units high, and I really needed this receiver for my main pro audio system and just happened to stumble upon it. I was looking at these Onkyo receivers. I'd wanted to pick up another one since they're really built like tanks, especially for something modern like this. But I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the process of installing this in the rack and some other stuff. I was previously using this Yamaha receiver, which there's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't have as many inputs as I'd like. So it's probably going to go on eBay here soon. And I also tried using that little RCA switch box, and those things are just cheesy. Nothing really against it, it's just cheesy. And I want something nice to set this rack off, so the Onkyo is going in the bottom 4 slots. Here's the 2 Onkyo units I own together on the table. As you can see, externally the cases and all the controls are identical. The TX-8511, as far as I can tell, is just a little bit earlier model of the same unit. One of the clues is this unit has DVD input and this one has inputs for VCR. So I'm thinking this unit's from the late 90s. But we're going to take the cover off here in a little while and find out for sure. Both very nice units. There's a couple things about these that I really like that kind of sets them apart from other home theater or home stereo type receivers, some professional attributes. One thing about these Onkyo receivers is they are 4 ohms per channel stable, which is not very common for consumer level gear. Another thing that I really like about these units, which will also lend itself to rack mounting, is even though they have a momentary, also known as a soft power switch that does not stay depressed when you push it, these units remember whatever setting the power, whether it's on or off. So simply by turning the power on your power strip, the units will come back to life if they were turned on and turned off by the power strip last time. So that'll be good for the rack where I'm using a individual power switch for each component. So another kind of nice professional-ish feature that these units have. And here's the back side of the 2 units for comparison. This is the 8511 and the 8522. Just a few differences between the 2 units. This one has the inputs and outputs for the multiple room control. The 8511 has that. The binding posts, well, they're not binding posts on the 8511. The 8522 has these pretty nice professional type binding posts that accept large gauge wire, which is something I prefer. Although for these style clips, these are actually built pretty well, although I do prefer the spring-loaded type of these. One thing this 8511 has that I also prefer, or that I prefer over the 8522, the impedance selector for the low impedance speakers, or 4 ohm speakers, is on the back of this unit. With the 8522, you actually have to have the remote control to access the menu to change the impedance, and what that does is it limits the current to preserve the life of the unit, keep it from getting too hot when you're driving the lower impedance speakers, that the amplifier is going to make more power into a load like that. So I do prefer just having the switch on the back of the 8511. And I also have a little clue. Looks like this rack kit was made by Middle Atlantic Products. So, a little clue to its origin. You can see that somebody removed, that's not a broken piece, somebody actually removed that. Maybe they had some cables that they needed to route through that corner there. And I'm going to have to cinch this thing down because it got loose from its brackets in shipping. So, I'm going to do a little more work and maybe take the cover off to show you guys the internals, so stay tuned. A few more things of note about this Onkyo TX-8511. It actually, when I purchased it, came with a handwritten note, which I thought was pretty cool in our modern impersonal world. Kind of a nice touch. And someone at some point was soldering around this unit because it has a tiny blob of solder on the back of it there. And where else would this rack mounted somewhat unique item come from? But of course, Kalamazoo, Michigan, that is. So just a couple quirks of this unit. Not sure where they had it before. Wherever it was had a gallery, evidently. And it's almost a shame that I'll only be using this unit as a source switching device and not actually to amplify any speakers, because it really does sound great. It sounds just like my 8522 and it has the same power output ratings. So I'm going to do a quick, about a 30-second sound quality test here for you guys. Now for the fun part, time to disconnect and pull the amp rack out and install this Onkyo receiver. Here's the rack pulled out, laying on its back in the kitchen floor, and it looks a little bare without all the wires and the mixer sitting on top, but it kind of looks cool to me too. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the Onkyo in and muscle this thing back upright, because it's going to be quite a bit heavier at that point. Here's the receiver installed in the rack. I'm not the biggest fan of this rack mount kit. I do wish that it actually threaded into the unit somehow. The receiver's just kind of hanging right now, but I don't move this amp rack around very often. I'm not using it in an actual professional setting where I have to transport it frequently, so it's not a big deal in my application. But if you get a kit like this, it's just something to be aware of, that it is pretty much just a shelf that the unit sits on. It's not actually engaging the unit with threads or anything like that. It just kind of sits up against that front bezel. Just a quick shot of the back of the rack, since we don't get to see back here too often. And this unit is actually, I'm pretty happy with the way the mounting came out, and it will definitely get plenty of airflow because the feet are still attached on this unit, and the shelf actually has the perforations, I guess you would call it, the slats in it. So there will be plenty of airflow through the underside of this unit. So it's going to stay nice and cool. Alright, here it is in the rack. It's kind of difficult to see in here because the lighting's not the best, and I actually forgot when I was filming earlier I was going to remove the cover to show you guys the internals of this unit, but don't fret, I'm going to have this amp rack down again here soon, because that is another XLS 1500. So there will be some more upgrades being made to this sound system here in the near future. But for now, I've just been playing some Xbox, and I have a clip queued up of my buddy Merkin that I'm going to show you guys. Give it a little volume real quick. as always, thanks for tuning in, and make sure to subscribe if you like what you saw here, and there'll be plenty more videos about this amplifier rack and plenty of other stereos here in the future. So have a good one, guys.